Alright, laddies. Gonna give you broader insight into how I developed a theory of ETFs being used to short AMC. Since all the new short rules came into play, prime brokers stopped allowing the shorting. They stopped allowing the use of options to short. No more naked shit, no more bullshit going on. They had to find alternative means to screw with the price of this stock, because it became too expensive or they weren't allowed to do it anymore. I'm tired of hearing people say that they think they know what they're doing and they're doing it in the options chain and blah blah blah. You're fucking wrong. And this is the final time I'm going to explain this shit to you. There are only a portion of AMC in these ETFs here. So if all of this shorting and returning was happening right here in AMC, these would not be moving the exact same way. There's only a portion of them, a tiny portion of them, that's housed. And there's a lot of other stocks, usually up to 50 other stocks that are in an ETF. So let's go look at Pro shares. So here you go, UWM, one of the major ones. AMC is the primary holdings in that account. But there is also all of these bad boys in here too. All of them. So, if everything was happening in the AMC option chain or was still directly being shorted, none of these would line up. If I were to pick, we're going to go with Crux. I'll just pick Crux up. If Crux looks exactly the same, almost, if it's following the same trend as AMC and as these other ETFs, then it means that these ETFs themselves are being purchased and shorted altogether at once to move the price of this stock. All the same basic movement. Let's see, just for shits and giggles, if Crocs looks exactly the same or close. Oh my god, would you look at that. Right at the beginning of the day. Up, 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 down, down, down. Up, 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 down, down, down. Yeah, that's where it's happening, you guys. That's it. And then you see this right here. You see this change right here. This change would typically come because Crocs in itself probably had some price movement on its own, as its own singular underlying that doesn't have short trail restrictions. They don't have order flow being routed anywhere else. But there you go. This is how you know. You look at the other underlyings in that ETF, and if they're moving exactly the same way as this primary underlying, then you know that the ETFs themselves are being utilized collectively. They're utilizing enough, they're buying enough of all the ETFs collectively, or shorting enough to essentially, if we call it at minimum, to equal a share in AMC. So they figured out how many ETFs they got to use to be the equivalent of normal share price movement, and that's what they're doing. That is what they are doing. That is how you know, right there. If it was all happening just in here, if it was happening in AMC's option chain, if it was happening just straight up shorting and returning here, these would not look the same. They would not look the same. The small percentage that's in UWM and all these other ETFs, this direct price movement would only move it a smidge up or down. That's it. So there you go. That's your lesson. All you saying that is happening in the options chain, I think you're wrong. Very, very, very wrong, and that's proof right there. So please stop coming in my fucking comment section trying to tell me you're some sort of pro analyst and you know what you're talking about. And, oh yeah, I guess they could short ETS, but it would be a last ditch effort or whatever. Yes, I'm well aware. That's how I ended up here. When I realized they were no longer taking or put positions and shorting through that by kicking the option to the curb and actually exercising it to short because they weren't allowed to anymore because prime brokers made it difficult. They upped the margin requirements. Option or not, you still end up at a point of buying or selling shares if you exercise it. And the only way to short is to end up exercising it. It's the only way you can do it. But you still have to meet the margin requirements. Or if the prime broker says, no, we're not allowing you to nakedly short anything, then that's a wrap. It's the last ETF video I'm going to make explaining this because I wanted to make it very clear by showing something other than IWM, UWM, IWN, and to show another underlying that is in one of these ETFs to show you that that's how you know they're buying the ETFs outright and they're shorting the ETFs outright because the other underlyings in that ETF follow the same price movements and patterns throughout the day. If you have a better theory you'd like to share with me, make sure you have some photographic evidence, a hyperlink, something you can show me, a PowerPoint. I'm not interested in your thoughts alone. I don't care what you laid your little head down at 10 o'clock last night and thought long and hard for 2.5 hours about what they might be doing. I need to see some proof that I can go over, look at, analyze, and go, you know it, this kid might be onto something. Maybe it's worth a deeper look-see. But you don't, because you're thinking like you're some sort of professional analytics manager or something that does this every day and you know how the finance market works and blah 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 and this is what they're doing, but you're fucking wrong. You're wrong. I've already been there. I was at that step that you're at over a month ago. Over a month ago. Found this shit roughly 4 weeks ago. I started noticing it. Started tracking it. I was looking at it for about 3 weeks before I even really started making the videos on it. Please stop arguing with me. I'm not worried about what you gotta say. If it's dumb and doesn't make any sense, I'm just gonna start ignoring you. I don't like doing that because I like talking to people with different opinions because, like I said, I could be wrong. I very, very, very well could be wrong. There's no guarantee that what I'm showing you, what I'm explaining to you is correct. I just have a very strong conviction that what I've researched, what I've learned along the way, and what I can prove, this is how they've been doing it. So if you'd like to have a civil discussion about it, please bring your fucking binder with your findings and your research. I'm not going to sit here on my message boards and fucking go back and forth with your empty thoughts from some shit you read on a Reddit post or something that you saw in another video. And because it's the first thing you heard, like most people, you believe it's true. It's the first thing you've heard to explain what you've seen, and you're like, well, this is what they're doing. I know that's what they're doing because I heard it 2 weeks ago from a fella on the Reddit board, and then I clicked the link and it took me to a YouTube video, and then I watched him talk about it. He didn't really show me anything, but I watched his face tell me these words, and I'll believe him. I do. You know what? I'll fucking believe him, and you're never going to change my mind. The end. Fuckers.